Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Shaft podcast, a podcast which seeks to highlight some of the big achievers in within African debating, and seeks to also bring you fun and entertainment and insightful reviews in within the debate space. Today, we're back. We're back with our interviews. I know we took a bit of a break to look at other pieces of content, but we always miss having conversations with people that we've fallen in love with over the course of their debate careers, and continuing to hear from them and continuing to understand parts of their careers or all of their careers actually, and get some insights from them. So very, very happy to have today's episode session with you. Before we continue, we wanted to say a big thank you to everyone who keeps on subscribing, who keeps on watching. This platform has grown immensely thanks to your contributions. And but we just want to ask for one more thing, that you continue to share this with your friends. Some of you watch but have not yet subscribed. We think you'll be doing us a massive favor if you're able to subscribe to help boost the numbers and to help bring this platform to the level at which it needs to be. All right. Thank you all so much. Today's episode is a very special one. I will be speaking to one of my all-time favorite speakers or debaters, and he's been out of the circuit for a while now. So I think it's going to be a pleasant surprise also for everyone else. But my very first GUDC, in my very first round, he's someone I met within the round, and he was awesome. It was phenomenal. Um, After some time, we didn't see him within the debate space anymore. So we're going to find answers to all of those questions today. How his time within debates was, what made him leave, what he's doing now, and what he looks forward to in terms of the future of debate and also for himself. So today I'll be speaking to a lawyer who has a bachelor's degree in history and archaeology, and he works at AB and David Africa, which is a Pan-African law firm with a footprint in more than 20 countries in Africa. His areas of specialization include dispute resolution, corporate finance, intellectual property, telecommunications, and IP. He has a lot of debate experience, having been in GUDC, like I mentioned, in 2014, the maiden edition, in which he won, and then also in the finals of 2015 GUDC in Kumasi. And sorry, that was the one I was at in 2015, and also a semi-finalist at the Pan African University Championships in 2015 when it was hosted in Legon. Ladies and gentlemen, would like to welcome Michael Owusu Frimpong. Welcome, Michael.
Yeah, thank you very much for such a warm welcome and all the accolades that you mentioned. I'm very appreciative.
Yeah, they are yours. They are yours, Michael. They are not mine. You did all of that. It's wonderful. Tell us, how have you been? It's been so long since. I'm sure your friends within debate still keep touch with you, but those of us within the general debate space have not seen you around.
Yeah, I would say that the law has this funny way of being a very jealous profession and taking you out of your hobbies. And so when I started law school in 2017, um, the demands of the law made it such that I was less engaged with debate as I continued to study the law. And so that's why after 2017, I think 2018, my last tournament I think I remember was in Tamale. I think you're one of the judges, the
Yeah.
Ghana University Debate Championships. And that was just about it. And after I finished and I had my LLB and I went to the professional law course, I totally lost touch with the circuit. But I do continue to interact with debaters on social media, Kareem, Prince, Shafiq, and I mean individuals, even yourself. I think I was once applying to the Bank of America. That was a long time ago, and I had
Yeah.
realized that you were working there. I had a couple of friends, Aurelia, and I was working there, and I was like, "That's awesome," because the last time I met you, you were a judge in the
Yeah.
tournament. Yes, and I was like, "Okay, yeah," but I do interact, but not in a debate sense, but with many personalities in the debate circuit. Yeah.
No, that's really nice to see that you're updated. I think it's something that we need to do more of. I know there are not a lot of platforms for us, and I think the chat is one of those ones where we want to try to use to keep in touch. But it's always good to keep touch. Anytime I'm out in London, it's almost my debate friends that we're going to see. So I've seen Aurelia, and prior to that, we've not really spoken a lot. But everyone is just super nice, especially within debate, and so it's so touching to see that you're keeping in touch with debate. Like already from your intro, there's a lot that I want to ask you. I'm struggling to uh, know where to start. But for some people who maybe didn't come and meet you debating, because like you said, your last tournament was in 2018, which
Yeah,
remind me, I think even by then you had taken a break and you had come
yeah,
back to
yeah,
do that tournament.
yeah.
Who were you? What were some of the tournaments you did? What were some of the highlights? Who would you describe yourself as in within debate for people to remember you?
Okay, so I was introduced to debate quite early in my university life when I met this very phenomenal guy, Antonio Asenio. I
Mm,
mean, he's a household name in debate circles. I mean, British parliamentary debate in Ghana would not be where it is without his contribution. So he introduced me to this very unique form of debate that I had never heard of, and then shortly after, Ghana University Debate was structured under a different tournament before Ghana University Debate Competition. It was called GT something, I've forgotten, and it was
GTDC,
run.
yeah.
Yeah. So that was my first tournament. I didn't break. My partner was Prince Asamoah. Everybody knows Prince. Very accomplished debater, very intelligent, one of the smartest people I've met ever so far. We didn't break, and so both of us had this like competitive desire in us to, first of all, we enjoyed the sport and we thought that we could do better, and with more training we would be able to do better in tournaments. Then shortly after, the university debates was restructured under Ghana University Debates Council, and then our first competition was held in the University of Ghana. By that time, we had done, myself, I think Prince had participated in the Vice Chancellor's Debate Tournament. It's this local tournament organized in the University of Ghana. We had won.
Yeah,
So at that
yeah.
point, we were called, I think, the Wonder Boys or something like that because of the phenomenal performance we had in that competition. So going into Ghana University Debate Competition, we had, I think, by then more than 7 8 months preparation, learning the art
Mhm.
of debate, the skills of debate. So entering that tournament, it was a better preparation for us than we had in the previous tournament. We won that, and I think the next tournament in Kumasi, yes, he was my
Yeah.
partner in Kumasi, and we're finalists. I remember that finals quite vividly. I think the guys who won were, I think Sarkodie and Ida.
Stack.
Yeah,
Ida,
and Ida.
yes.
Yeah. But I remember that tournament precisely because of the individual we were talking about in your introduction, Tintin. That was the first
Yeah.
time I encountered him. But very calm speaker, somebody who could finish everything, summarize a debate in 7 minutes, and was one of the favorite whips I'd ever seen and competed against. And then in the central region, in University of Cape Coast, at that time I had just finished. I think I just graduated, but the constitution allowed you to participate in the tournament six
Yeah.
months after your graduation. So Antonio had requested that I participate with Aurelia. So I changed debate partners, and
Mhm.
Aurelia was my debate partner. We were in the finals too, um, in that tournament, but we lost. I think we lost to no, not Sarkodie.
Is it BNI and
Isaac, Isaac and
yes.
his partner then, yes.
Sack. Yeah, I think it was Sack you spoke with.
Yeah, yeah, I think Isaac and Sak, yes. And so after that was Tamale, which didn't go quite well. I was with Shafiq then. We didn't prepare, to be
Yes.
honest. We had finished school, and like you were saying, we had taken the short hiatus. Law school was taking most of our attention. So we didn't really prepare, and then we forgotten, we're rusty, forgotten most of the techniques. And then we came, we think that we could bank on our experience. Obviously, we had a lot of experience between
Yeah.
myself and Shafiq. But then we realized that there was this exciting new crop of young guys who were we were very competitive, invested, and we couldn't really rely on our experience to to ride it. I think we got to the quarterfinals, and I think we were eliminated then. But
Yeah,
I had the privilege of lastly, I had the privilege of participating in the Pan African tournament when I was hosted in Ghana, and that's one my debate partner, who is now a lawyer at the Attorney General's office, Derek. Very phenomenal ride. I think we went to the semifinals. Where one of only two Ghanaian teams. The other one went to the finals.
yes.
I think that one was Elik Plim and I forgetting his and
JJ,
I think JJ. Yeah,
Jacob Atakwa.
JJ.
Yes.
Yeah, we're knocked out in the semifinals. So that's pretty much sums up my debate career, if you can call it one, my competitive debate career in the university.
No, it's really impressive, and like eh, we usually have conversations like this, right, where we're talking about some of the best debaters, especially from our from the generation right before us, and everyone puts your name in there. Like almost everyone I've spoken to just puts your name in there and mentions how much of a brilliant speaker that you were, and it was just a shame that um, a lot of the recordings or a lot of the debates back then, sorry, weren't recorded for that kind of. So when you explain to someone that this guy was really really good, like it's just very hard to put into uh, summation, right? But I want to start from some points of your story and then go down from there, because the way you describe it in after GTDC, the next tournament which you had in Legon, which was the Ghana University Debate Championships, you guys won, and I think you were either in your very first year or second year of debate, or even of school. And I remember hearing about it, and everyone was like buzzing about you guys winning the very first edition of GUDC. How did it feel back then? How would you describe the feeling of having to win such a prestigious competition, and what would you say it took from you in order to get to that point, or to get that accolade?
Yeah, it meant a lot to us, especially because prior to that, as I said, the GTDC one, we didn't break. We didn't break from the preliminary round, so it was very disappointing. I
Wow.
think we're the only University of Ghana team, or
UG
just
team.
one of two University of Ghana team that didn't break. All the other teams broke, and it was embarrassing, quite disappointing, but also that spark that that was ignited in myself, but also in Prince, because debate, as you are aware, it takes two, right? And so that
Yes.
burning desire, that competitive edge, and that the work we had to put in between then the vice chancellor's tournament that intervened between it and the next GUDC, we put in a lot of work, both as part of the University of Ghana Debate Society, which was a very vibrant and robust debate society, but also personally between the two of us, we carved out time within our schedule. He was a stats, math, I think, a computer science student. I was a history, archaeology
Yeah.
student, but we carved out individual time where outside even debate meetings we would meet either in my room at the balcony or in his room, and then practice speeches, practice sharing ideas, and so we put in a lot of work during that and participated in tournaments in-house, right,
Mm.
in the University of Ghana. So going into the 2014 tournament, we were much more prepared, much more hungry, very eager as a debate team, and so when we won it, we're very happy. But also the context is also that at that point, unlike now, I watched some of the debates. British parliamentary debate was still in its nascent stages, and you quite remember.
Yeah.
So we're still learning some of these rules of British parliamentary debate. But even then, the competition was very robust, especially between
I,
ourselves. I think it continues, and then University of Science and Technology, KNUST. So having been the only UG team in the finals, oh no, I think two,
yeah.
myself, the Kareem team, and then some of the very brightest from the KNUST stock, winning in that context felt much more rewarding, and given the time and dedication that myself and Prince had put in prior to that. So it was very, it took a lot. It took a lot also to, I already was an avid reader and somebody who was very
Yeah.
interested in current affairs, and I mean being very socially aware. But debate brings, I mean, British parliamentary debate specifically brings that element in you because of the idea that you don't know where the motion is coming from. You don't know the area,
Yes.
the controversy, even the part of the world that the motion is coming from. So you try and, much as possible, keep up to date with some of the very um, controversial ideas that and debates that are happening across the world. So that investment in extracurricular work really paid off in 2014. So we really felt that we were rewarded for the hard work, especially myself and Prince put in. And I keep mentioning Prince because he's such a very phenomenal speaker,
Yes.
and he's just raw wit, right? Some of us
Yes.
come into it with a wealth of knowledge, and like I just mentioned, like you listen to some of these debates, you pick up arguments.
Yeah.
But Prince has this extra about just common sense, witty approach to just any argument. He doesn't have to know about it. He just, I mean, processes it there and then he has a response, or he has an extension, as we will call it in debate. So it was very rewarding with the work we put in before we were crowned champions in 2014.
No, I definitely agree. For that 2014 tournament, I think there were some heavyweights in there. I know it was still at the nascent stage of debates, but because some of our guys came in there, they spoke about the rivalry with UG, and then you guys won. And I think, like you said, because the previous year you guys had not even broken, like no one was expecting it, so everyone was like really really surprised, and then they had to pay attention to you guys. So I think this was some of the most exciting times within debates, if you would ask me. But I would pivot into two things which you mentioned, and it's probably early within the discussion to have it, but I want us to have it anyway, which is that rivalry between um UG and then KNUST. It's quite interesting because I think those were some of the most inflammatory points from 2014 till about 2016. I think
Yeah,
2017 was one of the crescendos
yeah,
of it. But from coming from the camp of UG, how did you guys view this rivalry? What impacts did it have on you in terms of your competitive edge, and what it sort of demanded from you to bring to the table? How did you would you say it made you better? Would you say how did you interact with it? I'm curious.
yeah. So look, if you are across the table from some of the tech debaters, I can mention some of them. Telfa, who is now a lawyer, um, BNI, Boache Isaac, Tintin. I don't know. I don't think
Yeah.
I think Miracle Joseph is his real name, right? So, but I'm
Yes.
going from by Tintin. Like some of these very good speakers, right, and people who had very creative arguments. You realize, and Prince and I used to do this a lot, where, for example, we are opening government and we speak, and then the the debate ends and Prince will ask me my honest evaluation. And I normally was mostly right when I whispered to him, obviously, you don't want to let everything, anything away. That this debate, I think maybe the BNI team did better than us. So I think we'll come in third and or second or fourth. So normally he used to say I was painfully right whenever I gave my honest evaluation of the debate, because you could see the technical gift that these debaters from KNUST had. So so much so did we respect the competition that for PANS we had to hire both for PANS and I think for KNUST, either KNUST or UCC. I think UCC we brought in David Ejim from
Yeah.
Nigeria to help prepare us for that tournament. That's how we respected the rivalry between ourselves and KNUST. And I think for PANS, we brought in a chief from South Africa, I think Botswana or South Africa, one of them, to prepare us because we knew we were coming against some of the best debaters. And at that time, like I was saying, I don't know about now. At that time, the top two universities were KNUST and University of Ghana. The best speakers, whips came from these two schools. So anytime we were preparing either our normal debate meetings or prior to a tournament like GUDC or PANS, the aim was like this is how these individuals approach debate. This is how we can be better and we can beat
Yeah.
them. So even though we came in painfully second in most, I think post 2014, to
Yeah.
KNUST. We respected that rivalry, especially like very like I mentioned, very good speakers um,
Hmm.
from KNUST will put you on your toes, and more so because when we held these open tournaments where we're not institutionally affiliated and you were partnered with a debater from Kenya, so you could really value that kind of perspective they bring to arguments and bring to debate. So we took it very seriously, and every tournament we were on knife edges, and it was
Yeah.
tense. Every time we're in a room and there's a KNUST team, especially those that are notorious for being very good, we realize that higher, and then you have to put on your A game, otherwise you're coming in second best. Yes, so
No,
we did take it seriously.
yeah, I agree with you. I enjoyed the rivalry. I won't lie. I mean, and just like with all rivalries, you begin to hear like stories fly around, things like that. But I'm almost grateful for the fact that I understood that it was a rivalry, and I think for most of the debaters in there, just like you're saying, we understood that the other was good. Like it was the understanding that it was competition,
Yeah,
and I think most often than not, it's the people around who tend to stoke, and just like with every other sport, right? It's the people
yeah,
around some of your lecturers, your teachers, school administrators, some of your other debaters who are watching, cheering you on, who want to stoke the thing and make it. But you both know, like, look, the other guy is also really good, and you're
yeah,
always thinking about it. And I think we sort of had the same notion about you guys, like everyone was on their A game, like having to prepare for individual speakers, individual teams, like what exactly were their strengths, how we should be attacking them. Where it was, for me, it was really feisty, and I wish we still had that. Yeah, the two top
yeah,
universities are still KNST and UG. We've seen like a resurgence of UCC coming to the fray to win one time and also produce a lot of good speakers. And seems like debate is spreading more and more across. And you have like there are some very good guys there, but it still looks like the two societies of UG and KNST are the ones which are the biggest. But another thing I think you did mention was the crop of debaters within University of Ghana. And I know you already mentioned Prince, who I agree is one of the greatest speakers in Africa,
yeah.
if you do ask me. But coming up, or the core of which you were part of, who would you say were some of the most defining speakers? And in terms of the networks and developments that you created, how was that atmosphere important to keep all of you guys competitive, to keep all of you guys on your feet, and to help you develop? Because I think your core was one of the best. We've not seen it, I'll be frank, we've not seen it again. A number of UG debaters being so good. What would you
Yeah.
say was the driving force in there?
Um, for us, I think luckily for our generation of debaters, University of Ghana, like 9 out of 10 of the members who were interested in debate were very dedicated, and there was this internal competition. I mean, you can ask any debater within the University of Ghana when we were having in-house competition. I mean, because we had to compete for slots for international tournaments. So you can
Yes.
imagine how very competitive it was. And also, we just had this natural group of people converge at the same time who had this very unique interest in debate from different academic backgrounds. I mean, Shafiq, an economic student, uh, Derek, a lawyer, Aurelia, computer science, Prince, computer science and maths, Edupoku, business administration. But all these
Yes.
individuals had this very unique interest and very competitive spirit to British parliamentary debate, and the perspectives were very unique. So um, we had that kind of like natural desire to be better than the next speaker, even in house, and that's what made us better, made us grow. I mean, we used to watch debate videos. Like we used to watch debate videos, read debate manuals, as if it was a credit score for our academics. That we're going to get an A or we're going to be graded for debate participation. Very intense debate. So for me, I try to learn from a bunch of individuals. And for me, for instance, and I mentioned Tintin here, being able to speak uh, calmly within 7 minutes. You know how tight that 7 minutes can be, especially for a very
Yes.
tense debate that had a lot of issues. Being able to run through, rebut, and explain. Tintin sort of like epitomize how you can do that calmly, slowly, take a POI, and still finish on time. So you try to pick that. And also Prince's points of information and rebuttals. Very classic, legendary. um Derek's ability to speak so powerfully, and I suppose it, as a lawyer he's doing that, and
Yeah.
you learn that from him, and Isaac Boache. I remember fondly one of the best debates I've ever witnessed ever. It was not even a Ghana University debate championship. It was, I think, Accra Open, and it had, I think,
Mm.
Derek and Isaac, and then Telfa and Kareem, and it was this debate
Yes.
about, and it was one of my favorite debate, and the exchange of ideas, the arguments, the rebuttal was legendary. It's still etched in my memory as one of the best debates I've ever witnessed. So you try and pick bits and pieces from all these very great speakers, and then try and learn and try and be better individually with time. I know a lot of people will say they watch these international videos and pick international speakers, either if it's Yash or the guy from Harvard, the South African guy from Harvard. I've forgotten his name.
Finally.
Um, yeah, who won the world. I didn't really have a particular person like that. Like mine was more near to me in proximity, like the people I
Mm.
was picking things from. I do mention Antonio to Antonio, very good speaker. So we're trying to like learn some of these things and have these influence the way you speak, and the way you argue and the way you approach debate topics. So those are some of the very, oh goodness.
Yeah, yeah, I do agree. I do agree with you. I think when I look at that generation and I look at Aurelia, I look at Edupoku, like apart from them going on to do great things, they did great things within the sport, and they were always carrying this sport on their back, especially like in the beginning. And I do wish there's more of that we see. And we also saw the camaraderie between you guys. Like you guys were always up in arms everywhere that you went to. So it was really, really impressive. It was really, really impressive. When you mentioned POI, something came to mind, and I want to get your opinion about this because um, I'm sure you already know where I'm headed to, but in PAUDC in Legon in 2015, you mentioned your fantastic run which you had within the tournament, where it was only topped by a final by Eli Plim and Jacob Johnson Atapa, which was the first time any West African had even smelled semi-finals, let alone finals. But then something happened within the room in the semi-final. And I think you're the perfect person to speak on this because one, you are unbiased, and two, you were closest to it, right? But the stories that came out of the room was that there was a huge chance that you guys could have made it out of the room, but were undone by one POI, which came to Derek. Talk us through that. What happened? What was the what were the events that led to that, and how did it play out within the room?
Yeah, I remember that that semifinals very fondly. But every time this comes up, I'm always honest to tell everybody that in that debate round, I think I let Derek down a lot because it was a debate about carbon trading, something like that. I've forgotten, but it had to do
Yeah,
with environment, carbon
environmental.
trading. Yes, I had blacked out, and for the 15 minutes in the preparation, right, I couldn't come up with any serious arguments. I don't know whether the occasion had overwhelmed me or the topic then was too new to me that I couldn't, like, I knew about global warming and I knew like some of the debates around global warming and how to address them and the likes, but I don't know, for some reason we, so getting into the semifinals, we didn't really have an argument, we didn't have a structure, we didn't have a theory, right? And so it was when the debate started where I think we're closing government opposition, we're the
Yeah.
closing side, so we had at least some 21 minutes to prepare. So that's when we were trying to hash out our arguments, and in between that, we were able to fashion up some skeleton, very unconvincing arguments anyway. So Derek goes in first with whatever arguments we had, and then he's asked a POI. I'm not paying attention to because note I've already said that we didn't have arguments. So I'm trying to still think about
Yeah.
whether or not I can get this killer argument at least before my turn. So all I hear is an audible gasp in the auditorium. And I'm like, what just happened? The POI sort of like was a knife at the back, and the response wasn't that convincing. So he came, and I think it's the speaker before me, and I'm saying, okay, if a POI hasn't done Derek, I'm not taking a POI. So I go, I go with my speech. I just try and summarize the debate and put our points across.
uh,
And I constantly hear the guys at the other end, I mean, shouting POIs. I think it was a tech team there. I think there was a BNI's team there, BNI, and then
yeah.
oh yeah, I forgot his name.
Uh,
Oh,
Lenin.
Lennon, I think they were partners in that tournament. Yes, and they kept shouting POIs. I'm like, I'm not going to be another Derek. So I finished my speech. I got very few time the few times I didn't take a POI, and I left. So when we had finished, we actually all but knew that we were finished in that debate. We didn't think that was our best performance, and then truly we didn't qualify. I think the two UG teams in that room didn't qualify, ourselves and the tech team there. So, but it was one of
Yeah.
the very iconic moments. I remember when it comes up every now and then in discussions when we meet and we're hanging out. So yes, it was we're doomed from the start, as I mentioned. I mean, our preparation wasn't good. We
Yeah.
didn't have good arguments. So leading in, it was always going to be a tough ask because it's pants. I mean, you have the brightest
Yeah.
minds, young guys coming from all over Africa, and if you don't have a good strong argument going into the semifinals of all rounds, you are most likely going to be kicked out. So the undoing was from the start and not during when Derek was speaking. Yes.
No, no, I can understand because, like, in that debate, if you look at the draw in itself, and that's what I loved about debates back then. Like, you could literally just handpick anyone, and it was
Yeah.
possible that they made it through because it was that competitive. And in a semi-final, you can
Mm.
understand that it's huge. But yeah, I thank you for being so honest. I think you've given us a version of this story that seems to work well for all sides. It seems to just like put everyone in a good light. But yeah, these are some of the moments that we live for within debate. Yeah. So I wanted to also cast your mind to another moment, which was in 2015. Oh, by the way, do you remember me from 2015? And I always ask this because it's funny. No one remembers me from 2015. It was round one, and
Yeah.
the motion was this house would live golf or something like that. It was golf, like girls only, something
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
sports
Yeah.
motion.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you guys won. Edipoku and Aurelia were in your closing. And then we
Yeah.
had a team, and there was this guy from one of those schools where he asked the POI and said, Why is Edipoku putting his hand in his pockets?
Yeah. 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 I remember. Oh, you're in that room. Oh,
No
I
one
remember
remembers
that.
us in that room. No one
Oh, I
remembers
remember.
us
I
in that
remember.
room. Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah. So I was there. I was in the OO. I was
Yeah.
OO in that room. We obviously took a third. We obviously weren't great enough, but it was one of my highlights. I think it was the first time I'd seen you guys up close, and you were coming off the back of the 2014 championship. So it was like, oh my god! Like I was writing down the arguments. At that point, I was like, I just need to hear how you guys
Yeah.
do this thing. No, that's impressive. But no, that was the tournament where you guys like had had a lot of fun. And I think, like you mentioned, going up all the way to the finals of 2015 GEDC off the back of um, another win, and then Ida and Sack won, right? But what was the feeling within that tournament? Was it one where you guys maybe felt like you were in the running, and how did you have to deal with then having to lose that trophy, especially after lifting it the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, so going into, I mean, the heart of the beast, KNUST, our rivals' home, we knew that obviously it was a tall order. I mean, uh, some of the best, and I think BNI had, if I'm not mistaken, BNI had come back. I think he had taken a
Yeah,
hiatus, come back. So we knew that Tech were going to fill the best of the best. There were, I think, the adjudication panel included somebody from South Africa, a couple of other debaters from West Africa as the judge, the adjudication panel. So we knew it was going to be
yeah,
very, very, very difficult. That's a tournament that I think I came to really respect Tintin, Joseph Miracle. And so
yeah,
prior
yeah.
to that, I
Oh yeah.
thought Prince had no size. Like he had no competition in terms of his role as a whip. I was thinking that Prince is the best that I've ever seen. But I mean, I still think he is though. But
Yeah.
something came
No, yo,
really,
that tournament
really
Tintin came
close
out. Yeah, I
exactly
agree. Yeah.
to make me question that. Hey, Prince, I don't think you're the best out there, but I still think he's the best out there, Prince or someone. But I mean, he's. If I'm going to take a personality away from my experience in tech, it to be Tintin. Like the way he spoke, the way, and I kept on telling him anytime we met him. And we met him many times in the preliminary rounds because you know how debate works. I mean, in
Yeah,
the
power
preliminary rounds,
pairing.
yeah, the power pairing. So after 3 4 rounds, it was just myself, Prince, and then Tintin and his partner.
Every
In
room.
Yeah, in every room. So we kept meeting him time and time again. And myself and Prince would just tell him how we admired the way he was able to, in very calm composure, finish arguments, address core contentions and the debate, and just close off with these hard hitting rebuttals and final statements. So going to the finals, we knew it was very tough. I think then also there were two University of Ghana teams and or there were three tech teams. I've forgotten the
Yeah, I think we're
permutation.
three tech teams.
Yeah, I think there were three tech teams.
Sak and
Yes.
Ida,
Yeah. Um
you guys, then Tintin
no, I think it
and
was Joan and
Belinda.
Kareem. Yeah, no, there was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There was
Joan and Karim. Yeah, so it
yeah,
was
there was
two,
Joan and
two,
Kareem.
two UGs. Yes.
Yeah. And then yes, so that debate I think I've forgotten what the motion was. It was very contentious debate. That it's those debates that you don't know, you genuinely don't know an honest assessment. Like I said, Prince and I used to do this honest assessment after. Like if we had a bad day, like I'll just tell Prince, this is just a very bad argument. We probably come fourth or third. But it's one of those debates, and typical of any debate that had myself and Prince and especially Tintin, we really didn't know who come out the best between the two of us.
Yeah.
So when the debate finished, we were
But,
like, okay,
no, but were you surprised it was Sak and Ida? Because I'll be very honest, we were all surprised. Like we knew you
mm,
guys obviously had won
yeah,
previously, and but then
yeah,
Tintin and Belinda in that tournament was phenomenal. I
yeah,
remember their
yeah,
quarterfinal. E-
yeah,
Everyone said Tintin is speaking. Oh my god! And it
yeah,
was on the WhatsApp page, and everyone was running there.
yeah,
But
yeah.
would you say you were surprised by
Yeah,
the
yeah,
outcome?
yes, yeah, yes, and no, and because at the finals of debate tournaments, right? That's obviously the best four to out of the pick, right? And so everybody there is worth their salt. But obviously you have people you are more afraid of, especially because, for instance, like I've already mentioned, Tintin and Belinda, we had encountered them and they were like our most ferocious tech adversaries. So going into that round, and especially after the the final, or like this is very tricky. And also Stark and Ida had also they had a unique style of debating, especially the passion that Ida brought to debate, something
Yes.
that I associate a lot with Alec Blim. That kind of
Yes.
that's a contrast. That's in contrast with how Tintin speaks. I mean, the
Yes.
passion that Ida speaks with, and then Alec Blim speaks with is contrasted with just Tintin's calm demeanor and the way he addresses the argument. So that also brings its unique advantages, especially in a very competitive profession and sports like um like like debating. So yes, I thought that if we didn't win it, maybe Tintin's team will win it. But any of the teams there, I think Joan and
Mm.
Kareem also deserve to
Karim.
win it, and also Ida and Sak. So yes, my favorite tech adversaries didn't win it. I mean Tintin but but yeah, but Saka and Ida obviously deserved to win it after the
Nah,
debate. Yeah,
yeah, I agree. I agree. It was one of the more competitive finals. I think the final was about the Goyle oil disaster, if you
yeah.
remember.
I think I remember. Yeah,
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 where so it was about corporate negligence
yeah,
versus what do you call it? Yeah, I mean it was fun. To be very honest, I thought it was a very good debate, and I think it was the one of the few times we were also seeing the Baden rivalry and like it coming to clash. But I wanted to divert over here and speak about a personality you mentioned at the start, Antonio, because I know you went ahead and won the first edition of Hogwarts, and anybody who doesn't know or you've even forgotten about it. Oh, come on.
yeah.
So
I did. Yeah,
no, anyone who knows Hogwarts is Hogwarts. Hogwarts is
yeah,
where the champions of the champions
yeah,
come together to meet. And in the very first edition, and that's why I said like a lot of these things are being swept under the radar. But you came there during the very first edition and you won it. Could you from that moment could you use it to describe your relationship with Antonio in terms of debate and union development and how it culminated in that final win at Hogwarts?
yeah. So, like I mentioned earlier, Antonio introduced me to debate. At that point, I had entered the debate society. Was about leaving, so he was more of a mentor coach person to me than he was like a fellow debater. And he was, I think, the president of the debate society then. He was the outgoing president, and also just his role in the debate community in Ghana generally. So he was that mentor figure then. So at the time we had come for Hogwarts, but also his track record in debates was also enviable. I mean, he had also won the national debates under the previous configuration. So he had street credibility. He was also one of the very good public speakers that I had seen. So he actually asked whether or not I was interested in Hogwarts, and I said, okay. I mean, this would be an opportunity to partner with one of your mentors, the person who had introduced you to this very incredible sport. And I said, yes, okay, fine. But unlike all the partnerships I've had with Aurelia, with Derek, with Prince especially, he approached debates quite differently, and I think it speaks to how he understood the sport. I mean, Antonio is the only debate partner that I've had who can let you spend like 10 minutes out of the 15 preparation time just to understand the motions. You have not written anything, or you're still deliberating about what the motion means and what it requires of you. And sometimes I grew a little impatient. I think I'm like, by this time, if I was partnering Derek or
You have
Prince
like
or
three
Aurelia, we probably
arguments.
have like three strong arguments that we were going into the debate with. But here we are, 11, 12 minutes of the preparation time, and we are still trying to deliberate about what the motion requires. And he brought this kind of calm disposition to it where he knows you'll be panicking, but he's informing you that if you don't understand the motion, there's no point in going and having 3 points when you don't understand what the motion is about. So that reassurance would also sort of like offset any anxiety that you had by mere fact that you didn't have enough sufficient arguments by the end of the 15 minutes. So he brought a very new dimension to debating that I think I recognize and I really appreciate. And obviously that competitive edge, but with that flair of arrogance. I mean, I've never had a partner who is as arrogant as and so he tries to imbibe in you that kind of. I mean, when you go there, have this aura. He's all about emotional intelligence too, and the persona in debate, not necessarily just argument. And I realize that it has an effect. I mean, we're humans. It has an effect on judges. I mean, the way you argue a point is as important as the point you're actually arguing, and that's one thing that he focuses on. So entering into the finals, that was a very packed finals. I mean, with some of the brightest minds, some of them were actually my debate partner. I think Derek was in the final too. So it was
Yeah.
a very representative final. And I remember when we finished, it was one of those debates that we felt really, really confident that this is one that we might take. And so it was a very impressive run from by myself and Antonio, and I really enjoyed every single debate. Just that the annoying part was the fact that most debates by 10 minutes, 11 minutes, we still were deliberating about what the question was and what it meant and stuff like that. So it was a very exciting experience with my mentor and my debate coach. Yeah.
No, that's super impressive. Like, I had a similar experience when I spoke with BNI. I think fortunately for me, the first time was in PAUDC, but it was surreal because seeing someone in the process, like introducing you to debates, like training you, and then
Hmm.
them having to see you as a peer, so you sort of have to live
Yeah.
up to that
Yeah.
kind of expectation is really really brilliant. But I just wanted to highlight that Hogwarts, to people who don't know, Hogwarts was is the Harry Potter styled or themed tournament. So do you remember your team name from that tournament?
Oh, I don't know. I don't. I think I've forgotten.
Yeah, so we give ourselves like Harry Potter theme names,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then yes, and then we sort of like rank the best speakers in the country, and then
Yeah.
you are just supposed to partner yourselves and then go out there and go and
Mm,
challenge each other. So it was like super heated, and it was in a round robin style, which meant
yeah.
that you actually had to meet every
Yeah.
debater so you don't run
Yeah.
away. So like you meet every
Yeah.
debater at least once. So no,
Yeah.
but what within that tournament, what would you say was your most exciting debate? I know for previous versions, we always had around fives to be like the
Mm,
heavyweights, the
yeah.
classics, and then
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have to convince two panels.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of them where the debate was super exciting?
No, and I think my fondest is actually the finals. I felt that the finals, I'm trying to remember quite vividly. Apart from Derek, I remember vividly from the finals. Derek and B and I think we were partners in that
Yeah,
debate. Yeah.
yeah, I think Derek and B and I were.
Yeah, so I think the finals is one where obviously I said we felt very confident that we were going to win, but it wasn't that easy. I mean, it was some of the best arguments that I heard from Derek, especially, obviously that combination I'd already seen in I think Accra Open, the first one, where
Yeah,
I earlier mentioned he and BNI and I think Kareem and Telfa um,
yeah,
had there was this semifinals that they were debating this. It had to do with terrorism, and so I already knew that combination was deadly. And so that final was a very tough one. I remember there was one of those very few finals where, I mean, Antonio doesn't ever get ruffled by debaters because of his
emotions.
arrogance. But that was one of the. I think that was the only tournament where he getting into the finals, he was like, Charlie, we have to take this thing seriously. Otherwise, we might lose this. And I have my reputation to protect. And so it was all about his reputation. So it was my fondest. It was my fondest debate in that competition. Obviously, going to the finals, we met very exciting teams and in very exciting motions. And but that is the finals was one of the best. The arguments were
Yeah,
really were
I
really
agree. I
intense.
think
Yeah.
you guys were have been like the only team throughout the history of the tournament to not have picked CEO.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
in Hogwarts, if you break first, you so I don't know. I don't think you guys were
Yeah.
CEO, no, but no, but it was really really incredible because like you come off wanting to get the invite, you don't get the invite, and then you hear like the debates were so exciting. Man, I wish we were recording debates back then. We
Yeah.
should
Yeah.
really
Exactly.
record more of ourselves. And like you were saying, and it's something that I'm probably also going to ask you on is about who we make our heroes, right? Like we spend all of our time like watching students from Oxford, Harvard,
Hmm.
Yale,
Hmm.
trying to be like them, trying to emulate their style,
Hmm.
and then in doing so uh we I do feel like we trade off a bit of ourselves because
Hmm.
like especially with my experience coming within the world space, you almost feel like you need to adapt so that the
Yeah.
other person can understand you,
Hmm.
and you lose a bit of the brilliance that you have trying to follow
Hmm.
that template. So if we can create more role models for ourselves, begin to
Hmm.
understand and imbibe our style
Hmm.
and create a culture
Hmm.
of debating for ourselves will be so powerful because else we'll always be trying to play catch up to
Hmm.
the style of the Europeans who speak very, very
Yeah.
fast, who have
Yeah.
some ideas which
Yeah.
um they understand by virtue of their socialization and
yeah,
culture.
yeah,
So I think if we do more recordings, and it's the reason why we do things like the Shark podcast,
yeah,
bring
yeah,
people on, speak about their style, their
yeah,
experience, and create more role models for
yeah.
future African debaters, I think will be in a very, very good position.
Yeah, and just to chip in, and also like I mean, I don't want to narrow out myself to Ghana, but also Nigeria had some of the very best debaters. I mean, faithfulness,
Yes,
but this very young, exciting, also very arrogant speaker who came off the block. Who is this guy? I kept on hearing faithfulness from the Nigerian circuit, but when I met him first, I think in one of the tournaments, I was like, "Oh, this guy is the real deal." David Ejim, also my favorite Nigerian speaker ever, and it's not just the way he speaks; it's the logic, right?
hmm
He's very convincing, very charming with his argument. So yeah, so I don't like I agree with you. I don't like I watch some of the videos for also style, maybe um uh, content of arguments, but maybe also the technicalities of the sport itself. But the people that I try to learn from, I think the influences were more proximate to me. And so Nigeria, like I said, David Ejim, but also within the circuit, Tintin, BNI, Derek, Prince, Kareem, Shafiq, and cool. Yeah. So you pick influences from some of the great guys, and also I have to be honest. Even the people who were coming after us, the people that we were able to see. I mean, the last tournament I mentioned in Tamale, Jeremiah and Solomon, very brilliant group
yes,
of debaters, and you like to like especially the way Jeremiah speaks, but also the sophistication of Solomon. Like you try and learn
yes,
some of these things as you go, and so they are like I say they are our people we look up to who have done a lot in the circuit here in Ghana. And I don't want to leave out Eric. Eric is still doing a very good job in debating
yes,
and pushing it to senior high schools, even junior high schools, and continuing to like fan the interest of British parliamentary debate in Ghana. So like they're among us. Yeah, they're among us. They're
yeah.
not
No,
just
no,
yeah,
that's true. I
yeah,
think the future is really bright. I mean,
yeah.
speaking about the future, and I do know that you've mentioned a couple of debaters from like the new gen. I think even them now they are like old generation. So
Yeah, yeah,
so you need to click refresh. But
yeah.
I'm not sure if you've still had the opportunity to interact with the University of Ghana Debate Society in itself as a whole, and
Mm.
like the general debate community as a whole. But who are some of the speakers who came after you, whom you just saw that they had potential, or maybe you've even heard about and you just saw that these guys have
Mm.
potential, these guys are,
Yeah.
are so likely to do, or we need to be on the lookout for them.
Yeah. Like I was just mentioning, apart from I mean from Jeremiah's generation, I mean his year group, Jeremiah and Solomon's year group. I think there was Elisha. There was Elisha who was the is it Elijah or Elisha? I've forgotten his name from the
Elisha,
university.
yeah,
Yeah. Who I'd heard of and I'd also had the opportunity to see debates. And he had this very unique interest outside debate in Bitcoin. So I had this conversation with him
yes,
about blockchain, Bitcoin, and I was very impressed with his understanding of that space. And so I had the opportunity to witness. I was not part of the debate
yeah,
round. I had the opportunity to witness him debate, and I just knew this guy was fire. Like this guy
yeah,
was fire. Unfortunately, I was not able to participate in tournaments outside University of Ghana. So a
mm,
lot of that generation outside, so University of Ghana, no, I mean University of Science and Technology and other universities of Elisha's generation, I don't know a lot about. So I could only speak
yeah,
to the people I could witness in the debate circle just because every now and then I'll just pop in and say hi to some of the debaters and watch them debate. And because for me, it's always exciting to go back to that kind of raw exchange of ideas and argumentation, something
yeah.
that my current profession doesn't um, really it's limiting in the sense that you have to argue within this very narrow context of law, and so like most of your ideas are
Yeah,
constrained. But you have this platform where you are free to think very innovative, sometimes even crazy ideas, and as long as you can
yes,
back it strong logical arguments. So sometimes when I crave for that kind of experience, I just go and sit down and just watch these very
I,
brilliant
I,
people
I have
argue.
the
Yeah,
perfect solution for you, Michael. In
yeah,
August, Accra
yeah. Let
Open
me. Okay.
is doing the return. So
Okay.
Accra Open at 10. So there's a return.
Okay.
You should come and speak. I think
Okay.
that's the
Okay.
thing. A lot of the old guys are coming. So if you
Okay.
Faithfulness is coming.
Okay.
Um,
Interesting.
His partner
Okay.
Kennedy
Oh yeah,
Kezie
yeah,
would
yeah,
also be there.
yeah.
Victor Jasper, if you remember,
Ooh, yeah, I remember.
he was also part of the Nigerian contingent. He's coming, so he's
Yeah.
mobilizing a lot of the guys from there.
Wow.
Myself, I'll be coming. So
Oh, interesting.
Bia and I, Karim, everyone. So
Ah,
you better grab a partner. You need to grab a
yeah,
partner
yeah,
quickly
yeah. I have to look. I have to look
before
for. And
before you
I'm
run
probably thinking
out.
that Derek will Derek be coming?
I'm sure he would. I'm sure he would.
Yeah,
I've not heard from Derek in a while, but I'm sure he would because
yeah.
everyone is
I'll speak to him.
coming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
so
speak to him and
grab a
carry him.
partner and come and use the
Yeah,
last couple of weeks to sharpen your tools because
yeah, yeah,
um,
yeah. I would.
we're getting back. No, that's really exciting, and it's also good to hear and see that you're doing a lot like for the union. You're still like
Mm,
supporting them, going there, encouraging them because we really need some of you back within the circuit. Not maybe not to participate all the
yeah,
time, but also encourage young ones and let them see their trajectory
yeah,
and path. Right.
yeah,
Before we speak about trajectory and path, because we'll spend just a few minutes talking about um, what you're doing right now and how debate is impacting it. But I wanted to speak about one final issue, especially after you mentioned Shafiq. And I think at the start of the conversation, you did mention that, yes, the GUDC in Tamale, which I think was 2019 or
yeah,
2018, not sure.
yeah,
I think 2018
yeah,
was one where, yeah, like it didn't go too well. But I think
yeah,
I spoke about the melting point of competition and where like everything just sort of exploded. And we
yeah,
saw one thing which we had not seen
yeah,
for a long time. I mean, the signs were always there that something like that could
yeah,
happen,
yeah,
but we saw for the first time a team walk out
yeah, yeah,
of a
yeah,
grand final
yeah,
and
yeah,
refuse to
yeah,
participate within the
yeah,
competition. I
yeah,
understand this is a huge thing, but I
yeah,
wanted to hear your yes now
yeah,
after this event. I'm sure we can freely speak about it. I just wanted to
yeah,
understand your perspective in there
yeah,
and how you think all of these things played out in the end.
yeah. So the like you mentioned earlier, the competition was heated between KNUST and the University of Ghana, but also the walking out by University of Ghana. The first time we actually saw that almost happen was actually incidentally, the first GUDC in the University of Ghana, because I remember uh, vividly how I think the KNUST team actually almost walked out. Literally, were on
Yeah.
their way walking out, and they had to
And then
take
they were grabbed
the
back.
the diplomacy of the organizers, because you didn't want it to be a very embarrassing situation. I mean, the first tournament, and this is how it ends. And then, so I think at the end of the day, there was a compromise, and then we had the finals. But I remember that day, that finals vividly, because it was very tense leading up to the finals. So it had already started from its inception. The GEDC, the rivalry had spilt over beyond the competition within debate to the like the politics, if you will, of
Mm.
of the rivalry between Tech and UG and the bragging rights. So in Tamale, it was sort of, and but also all through the years, there was this, aside the competition, there was this notion that we had and we shared across, especially in our camp, that we didn't think we're getting a fair shake. Our speakers were getting a fair shake, and we thought that
Mm.
there was too much political influence in terms of the stakes were just more than bragging rights as who was a debater, and it was sort of like a platform for some to use for their political campaign, for
Mm.
student representative government and stuff like that. So the outside influences seem to have been corrupting the genuine sport of debate. And so sometimes even in the camp of the Kenyans, you even hear the tension between
Yeah.
some speakers. some speakers were being advanced to the detriment of others because of political ambition and stuff like that. So that's where we were in Tamale. In Tamale, like I
Mm.
was saying, I mean, um, Shafik and I were a bit rusty by then. We were coming in as law students who had not really participated in debate, I think, in a year or two. But we also had this bright young group of debaters, Jeremiah Solomon,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
who had spent a lot of time training and 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 honing their craft as debaters. So we go into the tournament, and yeah, we begin to see some of these signs. At least you might call it perceived signs,
Yeah.
but some of these signs where we thought that the influence of the extra competitive nature of debate outside bragging rights, I mean, the political influences were getting an out of hand. I mean, we were knocked out in the, I think, the quarterfinals or so, but we still
Yeah.
went to participate in the semifinals and I think the finals. And I think it was at the finals where um, they announced the teams that were going to participate in the final. I think that's where the teams are announced, and it was only one of our very good teams, which was I think Jeremiah
Mm.
and Solomon's
Solomon.
team. I think Ziyad's team sort of were left out, and there was a lot of discontent, and then we had to then um, speak as a team as to, I mean, how we approach this because were quite unhappy. Obviously, we're not
Mm.
trying to discount the efforts that the other schools had put in.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there was a UCC team in the finals too, so we're not
Yeah.
trying to rain on their parade, for want of a better word. But we're trying to look at the best way we could address that feeling that we felt one of our teams that deserved to be in the finals
Mm.
was not. And then we went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And then we took a decision that obviously we actually, you probably don't know this, but we took a decision to boycott. But when we went back home, we had a, I mean, our patrons were disgusted that we took that decision. They weren't happy. They scolded us. They actually thought that we were destroying something that we all had collectively built, especially Bello had an
Mm.
interest in. So they actually despised that decision, and I don't think they've forgiven us for doing that. And I think they've made sure that that never happens again. That there is no decision that
Yeah.
is taken, even in the heat of the competition between us and Kennedy, that it will jeopardize this very good thing that we built as two pioneering institutions. So that was the decision that we came to with then. Hindsight, let me be honest, hindsight, this is 2020, right? We shouldn't have,
2024.
yeah, but we shouldn't have, to be honest, because I felt also that there's an argument that I had to then that was raised then, but that I think I should have considered much more deeply. There was also an opportunity for um, Jeremiah and
Jeremiah and
someone to also
Solomon. Yeah.
participate in what would have been a very good final anyway, because I had a very good UCC
Yeah.
team there. I had some of the
Mm.
brightest tech teams there too. At least that opportunity to participate in the finals, because I remember myself in Cape Coast, myself and Aurelia.
Mm.
So we maybe yes, BNI's team did a very good closing. I think they were
Mm.
our closing, and we're opening. But we did a very good opening government speech, right? It had something to do with manifestos and like holding
Mm.
political parties to their manifestos.
Yeah.
So I genuinely thought that either we won or they won, but we came in fourth, and we're not that happy. But at least that opportunity
Yeah.
to participate in a very good
Mm.
final. Like I always say, I mean, aside the rivalry and the politics and what we thought about the political influences in debating sometimes. They were genuinely good speakers. I mean, you could generally pick out good speakers. I mean, the competitive nature of
Yeah.
debate, you understand that this guy
Yeah.
is like the real deal. Do you get it?
Mm.
And so, yes, hindsight, if I had to do it over again, we would not have boycotted and allowed at least Jeremiah and Solomon to experience a very competitive and what would have I thought been a very good debate, at least just for their own experience. If even if we knew that the result probably would have gone our way, I thought that experience would have been very helpful for them to hear.
No, I think that's a very, very, very powerful take, and it takes a lot of, it just shows that like the level of maturity which like you also have, because myself, like I was there within those times, and obviously my beliefs have also morphed over the period, because I think that we need some sanity within the space. I like
Mm.
competition, but I don't like all of
Mm.
the other things. I
Yeah,
just like the
yeah,
competition to sit within the
yeah,
debates, like beat
exactly.
me and let me also beat you. Like that's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where when it
yeah,
goes outside of it, it gets so we. I
yeah.
feel we have an obligation to. This is the space, and once it's destroyed, like if you come back 10 years from now, you're like, I was winner of GEDC, and everyone says, "What's that?"
What's GDC? Yeah,
You
yeah,
it was GEDC. You're
yeah,
gonna get a bit like flustered because that's time and effort you put in, and you want it
mhm,
to continue to count for you.
mhm,
So I think we have an obligation to sanitize
mhm,
the
mhm.
space,
I agree.
but then also in fulfilling the obligation, I also agree with you that there needs to be a balance made.
Yeah,
And to be fair, Jeremiah and Solomon got their chance the next year to be in the
yeah,
final,
yeah,
so I'm sure
yeah,
they will not be more worried. But it
yeah,
was a very good call to us to
yeah.
start like doing the right things and start making sure that the space was still competitive again.
Yeah, that's
But
what we actually got from our administrators. I mean, when we came back, they sat us down and told us how they had invested time, effort, and how in the long run, I mean, maintaining the space was in the interest of both institutions. So let's think beyond ourselves. Yes, we hadn't won it, I think, in 3 years after the first time. There was some
yeah,
disappointment that we hadn't won it, but they understood that this is much more than just individual competition between
mm,
individual debaters. This is something that we want to continue as institutions and rope a lot more of the tertiary institutions in Ghana into it. And now a lot of a lot of schools participate, which is a good thing. I mean, so if we had just been tunnel vision and narrow minded and just said, okay, because we feel aggrieved that individual speakers didn't make it to the final, so therefore we're bringing a very good enterprise to an end. It wasn't. It wouldn't be in the interest even of us. You know, I mean, like you just mentioned, going
mm,
back, if it didn't exist, I mean, your experience would be worthless to your future generations because they can't relate
yeah,
to what the hell is British parliamentary debate, what is it
yeah,
at university level. So to have it continue in leaps and bounds as it has was in our interest. But also, I'm told that there are so it's been reformed in various ways, and we can still make it
yeah,
better. So the idea is to make it better, but don't just bring through the baby together with the bath and water. So
yeah.
as we continue to reform, I think it's better. I remember. I think is it 2 years ago or a year ago, UG finally won it again, or 3 years ago.
Yes, yeah. I
Yeah,
think in
which was
Sunyani.
actually relief for me. I was like, about time. About time some UG team. So, and it's good. And you mentioned earlier too that another school had won it, and I'd seen it, and the
UCC.
news post. Yeah, UCC had won it. So it's very good now that there's a lot of buy-in from different tertiary institutions. It's not just this duopoly between tech and UG. So as long as that can happen in a debate, like you enter into the GUDC and any many teams can win it from UCC, from Central University, and from all these universities, UDS. It makes the competition much more wholesome. I think the problem with our generation was that because they were just these two institutions, and the role debate had played in I mean student representative governments and stuff like that, the interests
Mm,
were just more than competitive debate, and that's what so like corrupted it. But right now we have all these institutions that are invested, and that cannot be a very really viable controlling interest, and so the
yes.
value of that interest reduces with time, and which I think is a great thing. So it's good that the boycott didn't collapse the whole enterprise, and so in hindsight, yeah, we should have boycotted. Yeah,
No, that's a really really
yeah.
brilliant take. I think everyone will be. It's probably like a good point to now like start talking about you, right? Because you're now a lawyer.
Mm,
um, and I'm sure in that the journey, like you said, it was so difficult. You had to
mm,
leave debates. But what are some of the reflections in your journey to becoming a lawyer and in the kind of work that you do now? What are some of the reflections from debates which you're able to use? And for a lot of law students that are in debates who are looking to
yeah.
become lawyers themselves,
Mm.
what would be your advice to them?
Yeah. First of all, I think my first take is that I mean, having experienced debate for 4 years, I just generally intuitively know that lawyers are not the smartest people in the room. So so that's one thing, and it continues to I mean, for me, my experience, it continues to be a self-evident truth. The many times I converse with lawyers about social issues, and then the only take they have is a legal take. I'm like, yeah. So outside the law, can you not like approach this problem from maybe a moral standpoint, from a logical standpoint, from a policy standpoint, from even science, from environment? Can you not just limit your scope to just the legal analysis? Because that's a very limiting um, scope and dimension to approach any problem with, even legal problems. Like you like to,
Mm,
if you want to solve a legal problem, I like to think outside the box a little bit and just understand that solving problems is not just thinking within professional interest. Like understand the social commentary around, understand the tensions, the interests, the stakeholders, and like try and solve the problem. So that's one thing I think I appreciate from debate, that anytime I'm approached with a problem, and it doesn't have to be legal, but most times because of my profession it's legal, I try and like look at the interest at stake, the stakeholders, and try and like think through the problem and that way. And that's a very good way to approach problems as a lawyer. But obviously your the benefits of debating in law, obviously if you're in dispute resolution, and also there's this
mm,
there's the I mean, many people think that lawyers is just being a lawyer is just being an advocate. Yes, it is, and most lawyers would advocate in court, but some don't. And I have colleagues in the office who haven't gone to court for like 10, 11 years. They don't practice dispute resolution, but they represent clients in different ways, transactions and in other ways. But if you want to be a dispute resolution lawyer, obviously some of the qualities you get from debating is speaking, argumentation, um, and those very like basic tools you need as a lawyer. Um, but generally speaking, if you're a lawyer and debate, I think
mm,
you'll be helped very much by perspective, by the idea that it's not always the legal argument that wins. It's not
mm,
always the legal perspective that wins. And some of the very convincing arguments, some of the very interesting arguments actually come from perspectives that have nothing to do with the law. And so that's how I approach my life as a lawyer. The influences that I had, also reading what like reading beyond their scope. So I picked
mm.
up 3 books. I picked up a couple of books, and I said
Oh.
that yeah, I'm not going to limit myself to reading just the law. I want to understand economics. I want to understand political economics, politics and
Mhm,
economics. I want to understand um, tech. I want to understand blockchain. I want to understand all these things. So that desire will come from debate. Obviously, if I talk about the single most important thing for me in my whole educational journey, that has influenced my life as a lawyer, it will be debate. It will not be me as a
mm,
history student or me even as a law student. It's just that those tools that debate gives you are like irreplaceable. Like our education system doesn't compensate for it. If anything, it does the opposite. So all these things that yeah, if anything, I mean, it does the opposite. So creative thinking, argumentation, like approaching problems from diverse views, are really tools that I learned from debate and that I still use and that helped me in my profession. So if you're a lawyer, you're doing it great. It just enhances you as if you're a law student and you're doing it great. And if you want to be a law student, you're not a law student. Yes, it's one of those tools that will help you to be a very good law student and a good lawyer too. So yeah.
No, that's really brilliant. And I always say that luckily for us, we have evidence. Like, and for a lot of things, people would want to sell to you as good experiences. They almost speculate the outcome of it, like if like with your course, like you were saying, if you study this, you can become a this, you can become that. With us, there's clear evidence, there's a clear pattern where each and every individual we bring on here is saying debate is the single most defining thing.
Yeah.
And that is such a powerful statement. And I feel it is slept on for so much for someone to
Yeah.
say this is the single most defining
Yeah.
thing in
Yeah.
terms of pursuing my career, in terms of changing my life.
Mm,
I feel everyone should be running to do this. So
yeah.
thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm probably sure would leave your LinkedIn so that those who want to become dispute resolution lawyers can also reach out to you. And
Okay.
also maybe you should share tips on how to help them survive Makola, because
Yeah.
I heard
Yeah. I
now
will. Yeah.
it's a huge challenge.
Yeah.
But before we go, right? Anything we usually give the chance for you to anything you want to share in terms of what
Mm.
you're working on that you think
Yeah.
you want to put out there to get some awareness on, because we have such a huge platform thanks to
Yeah.
people like you.
Yeah.
So it's also a very good opportunity to speak to people about it and get your word out there. And any last words you may also have for our audience.
Yeah. Okay. So let me just use this opportunity to just speak about how first of all you can approach debates in two ways, right? It doesn't have to be either or. They're not mutually exclusive. You can approach debate as I'm a competitor and I want to win debate tournaments. You can also approach debate as I want to learn the skill and the art of impromptu speech, argumentation, perspectives, etc., reading wide as a lifestyle and life form. And so that would mean that even if you're not winning accolades in debates, right? You're passionately learning about the skill of debate, the skill of argumentation. You're learning some of these requirements to be a successful debater, like reading outside the scope of your academics or your curricula, and just being naturally or developing that passion of being socially aware, being economically aware of your surroundings, your environment, the issues around you, being problem solving in nature and solution oriented, and also approaching problems from different perspectives. Those tools that debate gives you, you can passionately dedicate 4 year undergraduate degree or even a master's additional years to learning some of these things as a life habit. My fear is that, and also a fear that has been confirmed, is that the traditional, I mean, academic curricula doesn't really give you these tools. So you have to actually actively seek them. And one of the ways I was able to seek them was through debate. So you might not have won any debate tournament. The example you give, Aurelia Abena
Mm,
Atipo, I don't think she has won any debate accolades, but she's doing wonders at Morgan Stanley. I mean, she was previously at Bank of America as an analyst, and
yeah.
so and she would probably would speak to some of the things that she learned from debate that have influenced her and continue to influence her. So once you learn and you are interested in debate, it will help you professionally and even personally. So for me, I mean, I apart from reading outside my profession, I have these newsletters where they are sending me finance articles,
Mm,
politics, geopolitics, governments, tech articles, and I'm just trying to read and understand the world around me. And so that makes you a better professional, whatever profession you are in. You can even be a doctor. I mean, Ida was a doctor, right?
mm.
Is a doctor,
Yes,
is a
I
doctor,
that was yes.
medical student. Then yes, you don't have to be a lawyer, you don't have to be a political scientist to be a good debater. I mean, like I mentioned, people from all walks of academic life have their lives have been really enriched by that debate experience, the tools that debate gives you. So that would be my advice. Right now, I'm in an Pan-African law firm. What we do is we help African businesses find solutions to like the myriad of problems. I mean, now we have the Africa Free Trade um,
Mhm.
agreement that is supposed to harmonize trade within Africa. So we're trying to help a lot of businesses. I know it's a platform that you have viewers in different African countries. We
Yeah.
are in, like I mentioned, like you mentioned in the introduction, we have a footprint in more than 20 countries. I think offices in 4 or 5 other countries, including Eastern and Southern Africa, but a network of best friends in a couple of other African countries. So if you're an African business and you are looking for business solutions, you could hit us up, AB and David Africa, and we would find solutions to your problems. Yeah.
Mm, mm. That's really good. Well, I'm sure this will be a very good platform to sound it out there, and very very powerful advice also in there in terms of building these skills, because if we start to talk about that, we might not
Yeah.
finish, like, because yeah, I was in a room adjudicating once and I was like, hold on, this feels like an office meeting where we have an agenda, and this one is arguing why we should view things this way, and this one is pushing back, and it's about
Yeah.
how having to insert
Yeah.
yourself. And I was like, I've done this so many times that now when I go
Yeah.
into meetings, I take it for granted. And you see a lot of
Yeah.
people work in these companies and they admire how you're able to do these things, but you never even for a second think about it that this is a
Yeah.
skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's really, really incredible advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank you so much. I'm sure people will be so excited for this episode. So we're gonna do our best, and we're very sure that once this is out, people would also get to benefit from it. All right, cool. So
Okay.
thank you so much, and
Yeah.
have a goodbye. Don't have a goodbye. Don't leave yet. We'll still need to wait around, but I'll just drop you from here and
Okay.
do this. All right. Thank you all so much. This was such a wonderful discussion with Michael, who shared his journey and experiences within debates with friends, with his mentors, with other speakers, and who touched on different topics about his time within the debate circuit, as well as telling us what he does now as a lawyer and how debate is helping him achieve that. We want to, on this note, end this episode. Just also want to encourage everyone that subscribe to the Shaft podcast. Share this also with your friends, because these are the people that we bring to you. This is invaluable resource which can change your life, and it could be you tomorrow on this podcast. As usual, best of luck to everyone, and then we'll see you. Thank you.